All right, I hope I'm live and I don't see anybody joining me right now. Let me wait. Oh, this is really new to me. I've never done a live session. Okay, I guess I'm live. I think people can see me right now. All right, what is the reason I'm coming live? The reason I'm coming live is to answer all your questions. I'm just around the 200 subscriber mark. I know it's too early to do live session, but I just thought about doing this one so that you guys can understand, or if you have any questions, you can throw at me. And I have some questions that you guys have asked over the last 5 to 8 months that I've been doing YouTube. Prior to you doing YouTube, I was actually blogging. I was blogging for programming, mainly programming and software related stuff, and I'm still doing that. But the YouTube has been a very good journey so far to me personally. All right, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to have I certainly have some questions that you guys have asked me. I'm going to try to answer all these questions in detail to make sure that you guys can understand how you can actually be a better programmer. Not just that, but also other things related to how you can start and how you can be, or you can jump from one job stream to another and all of that. Let's first start with the first question. The question is, what is your favorite programming language? Favorite programming language? I hope that you guys know about my story. I started out in a basic web architecture style. It started out with basic C, HTML, JavaScript, all of that, and from there on, it went on to do some JavaScript. After that, JavaScript became Java. Java was actually a server-side language that I used, majorly JSP like that. And after that, I interned with a FANG company, and the FANG company, if you do not know what is a FANG, it stands for Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. So one of the company in these four, I interned, and I was actually in a architecture where I was primarily using Java and Node.js. So those two actually pushed me to my boundaries. Whatever I did with the HTML and CSS it was nothing compared to those two languages. Node.js was a different style, and Java, whatever Java that I knew and whatever Java that these teams in the fan companies were using were completely different. I learned a lot during these 8 days. The first question is there any Flutter jobs in future? Definitely yes. So definitely yes, because Flutter is just starting out. If you guys know that Flutter was not even in the architecture, or is not even in the timeline for Google. The Google started out with just something like Kotlin. Kotlin was an alternative to Android, and immediately as soon as they started Android and Kotlin, and they announced this Flutter. The Flutter is the concept that you can just code in one language, and it is going to be applicable for any architecture. It could be Windows, Mac, Ubuntu, Android, doesn't matter. Any OS, one code is going to run anywhere. So it is just a starting. It is just going to be a starting point at this stage. It might take 10 years for this language to pick up. It might not pick up even after 10 years, but that is definitely this idea of one code for every architecture is something that a lot of companies have been investing, not just Google. Apple is behind that, but Apple has their own Mac and iOS, but they still have a lot of people inside doing this. There are companies that like Facebook that is trying to create one language for the entire web architecture. So all of this company wants to reduce the amount of human resource that you need to develop something. So if you have one language that can build you four different things, it's a win-win for this company. So that is where it is starting. To be honest, Flutter is really at nascent stage. It is going to pick up from here for sure. If you guys can see the trend, you guys can understand that Flutter is actually coming up in a lot of questions, coming up in a lot of different Android forums, and people are trying to make sure that this is going to hit some huge platforms in the coming years. That is for sure. Yes, I've got this question from you. Please create a detailed video tutorial on blog. I've got this tutorial question from you, but the idea behind these Flutter tutorials that I've been posting so far are to stick to a series so that it is going to be easy for anybody who's coming in the future to read. So in case, for example, say that there is somebody who wants to learn Flutter for starters. They can come in to take to this playlist, and they can start with basics of Flutter, and they can end up with something that they do not. They have to go through the entire playlist, and they can understand everything. If I go jump directly into something like a block pattern, which is actually nothing but an architectural design, you can still get some knowledge out of it, but there is nothing that is actually related to Flutter that I can talk in there. It's just an architectural pattern. I can just throw you some examples. I can throw you some basic architecture, but you guys have to understand that you have to know what is Dart and what is Flutter to understand block. So I'm just trying to get there slowly so that it builds up a series, and you guys can actually make sure that if not now, people who's watching these videos 8 months or say 1 year later can still get through these series one by one, and it still makes sense. That's the main reason I'm holding back these architectural patterns like block, MVP. A lot of architecture patterns are there, and I'm just holding this so that it sticks to a pattern. Okay, Flutter UI button, I don't understand. Backend part like data passing and state, etc. Okay, to start off with, Flutter is a UI language. So you have a UI, you are trying to post things in UI, and a lot of things in the front end is made easy with Flutter. The backend part, you do not have to worry. It is completely stitched with a programming language called Dart. So you guys need to understand certain basic programmings like data structures. You have to understand what is the basic of oops concept. So all of that is going to play important role if you have to understand the backend part. If you directly jump into Dart as a programming language and try to understand everything that is to do with state management, Flutters, serverless concepts, Firebase concepts, it's going to be huge uphill task. The main reason I'm saying this is to make sure that you go step by step. Start with a simple, say, UI button. After the what do I learn? After the what do I learn? I'm trying to make sure that these programming videos are in such a way that you guys can also understand how useful they are in if you do it one by one. If you suddenly want to jump to the 90th video and try to understand how you can go serverless with Firebase, it's going to be a huge difficult thing to do. So you just have to make sure that you keep doing it, you keep understanding how these concepts work, you keep reading the basic of oops concept. I personally do not do any videos on basics of oops concept because there are hundreds of YouTubers, hundreds of blog articles out there that can talk to you guys about oops, talk to you guys about data basics and all of that. But as if you want to really learn Flutter, it's mainly at this point a UI language only. It is mainly about buttons, widgets, and all of that. If you really want to pick up from here and learn, say, how do you do a login page website in Flutter, it is not going to be as straightforward as it is, because there aren't a lot of docs that can help you. There aren't a lot of blog articles that can help you. It is just going to be it's going to be a gray area for you right now. But if you can pick up the basics of data structures and try to understand how that applies to UI, like UI language like Flutter, how it applies to Dart, you can pick up from that. I hope I answered the question. So I'm just going to continue with a couple of questions that have come in my way. The second question that has come in my way is, why is Flutter not yet famous? That is a great question that you guys would want to understand. Flutter is not yet famous because it is still in the basic nascent stage. You guys cannot understand something in, say, Python. Python has been there in the market for 25 years, and Python is starting to become the language you go to. And Flutter is still at the nascent stage. There are languages like Golang that Google has backed and is still picking up. And it's going to be, there's always a curve for any language. If you can just start at the start of the curve and try to reach the peak from here to here, that is the growth. So you just have to wait for these languages to pick up. You just wait for these people to pick these languages up, and hopefully there are going to be days in the future when people are going to look for Flutter application developers, for Flutter developers, and Flutter is going to solve all of these concepts, like making Android apps for making Android and iOS app with just one language, and that is going to be a huge plus. Okay, the third question is Flutter a good language? Something that is still related to that. Flutter is a good language. There are still a lot of things that the Google has to invest on and develop. To be honest, there are certainly a lot of bugs with Flutter, and if you see the lot of subreddits that I follow, I just try to link that in the link in the description below. But the subreddits that I'm following, they are actually bashing the Google for not prioritizing certain important Flutter libraries. That is just because Google has a lot going on in them. they're investing in Flutter, but not just heavily in Flutter. So it's going to take some time. It's a lot of things are open source for now. People can just pick up this language, fork this language in main and just build their own things, and submit it for free to back to the Google. So it is all as of now open source. If Google is going to back this properly, they have to have their own engineers do it, and that is why Flutter is not just not picking up, but it's bound to pick up, because this concept is very very unique. And one language for all OS is something that has been in the charts for more than 10-15 years, and people are trying to answer this, and Google has taken a bold step to make sure that they are the pioneer in this. Okay, what is the best backend database technology for Flutter? Backend database technology for sure is Firebase. For now, they have a great link with Firebase, because it is Firebase again is a Google product. So you can understand that it is going to be, basically they're going to start with Firebase, and they're going to have a lot of plugins for Firebase, and plugins for data storage in Firebase, and a lot of that. There are other things that you can do as well. You can build your own technology. Say you can build your own Node.js server, and try to connect it with Flutter. It's not going to be easy. I'm just going to be objective with you guys, but it's going to take some time for, again, Flutter's team to start with. It's going to take some time for the Flutter's team to start and understand that they have to push these data, and they have to make sure that it's going to work with a lot of different architectures, and it's definitely going to take some time. It's limited user or data. I'm not really understanding the question. Is it because, is it Firebase, or is it? Yeah, okay, I think I understand the question. So you're saying that Firebase, it's about limited user or limited data. That is because, again, it is again because Google is a platform where you have to buy certain things after a certain point. It could be with anything Firebase. It could be even with any APIs that you want to use Google's API. It is a certain point is free, and if you're going to expand after that point, it's going to be, you have to pay some money. So that is how Google as a company can work. If you are really looking to cut that money short and try to build your own server architecture, it's going to take months to actually make sure that that is something that is going to handle the load. Say, for example, you have an application that is having 1 million active users, and if you're going, the maximum that you're going to pay for Firebase is anywhere from $150 to $200 to maintain your server. In case you're building your own server, say you have your own backend, that you have your own setup and all of that, it's going to take you for anywhere from $800 to $900 per month to build. Say you take 3 months to build, so you have already spent $3,000 to build your backend, and after that, anywhere from $100 to $200 for maintenance every month. The Google is doing all of that for you. The Google has given you a lot of plugins to connect with your Firebase. So that is how it's going to be. The base is about economics here. Google is doing these things, but you still have to pay some money for them to do their job, and that is why they are paying. But after to some point, it is still going to be free. I personally have used Firebase for up to 10,000 users, and I've not even paid a penny. And there are apps that have hit 50,000 users, and I'm paying some money for that, but there are the ranges around that. So it is all about how you actually want to invest your money, if the application is going to have a lot of load. All right, let me jump on to the next question. If there is any question from you guys, it's about how long does it take to learn any programming language? Any programming language, honest answer, it could take anywhere from 6 to 1 year if you were trying to understand the basics alone. If there are, say, for example, you have say the programming language like Python, which has a lot of resources, it could take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. I'm not throwing these numbers just because you just because I'm trying to give you an answer. The question is, how long does it take to learn a programming language? It may take years, but it might take even months. It's all how good you are at understanding these languages. It's definitely up to one person. It's definitely personal. But again, if I'm the instructor, I would definitely say 3 months to maybe teach you all the basics of Python. After that, it's up to you to just put in work and try to learn a lot of things. If there are, say, for example, languages like Java, I'm going to say anywhere from 6 to 9 months to teach you guys everything. It's up to you guys to learn. So that's how important, and that's how good as a programming language you have. If there are, say, limited data, for example, Flutter does not have a lot of work docs or a lot of example docs out there. So it's going to take some time, but nobody learns Flutter immediately. They are going through a path where they are already learning Java, Python. They want to learn another language like Flutter, Dart. That's how the world is right now. You cannot survive with just one language knowledge. You just have to make sure that you're continuously updating yourself with a lot of things. So the question is again, how long does it take to learn a programming language? It could be years. It could take 10 years to actually master a programming language. You could be a Python veteran, but you still would not understand something as simple as how does a decorator work. And you could be a newbie and you could talk about decorator. So it's definitely about it's a personal. It's definitely about how you understand or perceive any language, and it is definitely going to take some time for initially to get that curve. Any programming language has a simple curve. It's say you have understood Java, Python, Node.js, everything. You just take this small time to understand how this language works. So after certain point, it's going to be pretty easy. But if just starting out, it's definitely going to take some time. All right, just going to jump to the last question. I am certainly hoping that this live session is going to be a little bit useful, as this is my first live session and Q&A. So just hit 200 subscribers here. And the question is, why did you start programming, and why did you jump into YouTube? So I started programming because I was always fascinated by computers. To start with, computers is something that I've been. It started off with just basic gaming and stuff when I was like in my 10th grade, 11th grade, and I was certainly hoping to just jump into this computer as a programming when I was in my 11th and 12th grade. I took it seriously in my 11th and 12th grade. So the question is again, if for people joining now, how did you start programming and why YouTube? So I started programming, as I said, in 11th, 12th grade, and from there on, I learned how to do basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It was really fun. A lot of concepts out there, and just as soon as I did that, I felt like I was a superpower. I had a superpower, and jumping from there, 4 years of basic degree education, I was really fascinated by a lot of things coming into the market right then. The Python was in the market, and people were going crazy over that. It was already there in the market for more than 15 years, but still people didn't notice it. And after that came the programming languages like Java. I learned JavaScript, JSP, a lot of server languages, Node.js in particular, and a lot of that. And up till this point, I wasn't really sure if I want to pick computer science as a career that I want to develop on. And as soon as I entered this FANG internship, if you do not know what is a FANG internship, it stands for Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. I got one of internship in one of these four companies. I cannot say it out. So I just did this 8 to 9 month internship in this one of this FANG company, and it was a great experience for me because I personally learned a lot of things. And that's when I got hooked into programming as something that I want to pick up as a career. I got into full time after my internship, and I started working for this company. And I started thinking about how I can develop my language skill. I was actually doing Java when I was interning, and I jumped into a Python project, and I was as a full time. So I had to pick up Python as fast as possible, and I did pick up Python. But after that, it was about learning new technologies in the market. I was very interested in application programming, mainly mobile application. I learned Android prior to that, so I just picked from Android, and I later landed on Flutter. So as soon as I landed on Flutter, the story was that I've been blogging for more than 1 year before that. So as soon as I landed on Flutter, there was a proper documentation. There was nothing that was available except for that Flutter was a new programming language in town. So that's when I thought about making probably a YouTube channel out of this programming language. I could dive deep and understand this personally. I could dive deep and understand how this programming language works, and I could still make a YouTube channel out of this. So that's how I wanted to blend things. And maybe it is still a learning curve for me. I do not know the A to Z of Flutter. I'm just trying to learn everything from scratch, and that is how the YouTube channel started. So currently, I'm maintaining a blog which is probably 1.5 years old, 1.5 to 2 years old, and this YouTube channel which is 7 to 8 months old, and I just hit my 200 subscribers. So yeah, I hope this answers the question. This is just my first live Q&A. I do not know how many people joined, how many people left, but I personally hope that this Q&A was informative. And in case you guys want me to do a lot of Q&As, do not forget to let me know in the comment section, and also make sure that you guys can hit me up in my Instagram. That's where I got all these questions from. The questions that I've gotten from these are personal DMs that I've been receiving over the last 8 months. All right, let me meet you some of the video that's coming up. There are a lot of Flutter content lined up, and hopefully I did not take too much of your time. This is the first live Q&A session experience that I want to world experience. And I hopefully this is good. This has been good. I've answered like 5 6 questions from a lot of people, and I'm going to go up and make my next video that is going to come up probably in the next week. So until then, Swar, peace out. Have a great day. I hope this video is informative, and live Q&A ends right now. Peace out.